Hi, my name is Laura Perry. I'm with Cap Montana Property Taxes, and today I am here with Dr. Al. We're talking about CI-121, which is the constitutional amendment to cap property taxes. So welcome, Dr. Al.
Well, thank you very much, Laura. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, for full disclosure, I'm a candidate in the Republican Party for the U.S. congressional race, Montana District 1, which is the western 15 and a half counties of Montana.
Fantastic. Thank you. So today we're here to discuss a little bit about cap property taxes, CI-121. And we're getting a lot of questions from the population and as a whole. And I wanted to ask some of these to you because I thought you would be the best one to give us the answer. So with regards to the legislature, were you disappointed that the Montana legislature failed to offer any property tax relief during the 2021 season?
Absolutely. Again, for full disclosure, I ran as a candidate for governor for the 2020 election in the Republican Party. And one of the biggest pieces of my campaign was that we needed fundamental property tax reform. Look, I traveled the entire state. That gubernatorial race, I put 185,000 miles across Montana. And whether we're talking in Plentywood, Ekalaka, Darby, or if we're up in Troy, Montana, all four corners, people said, look, Doc, the thing that's killing us is our property taxes. And we are tired of renting our property from our state government.
So true. Absolutely. Have any legislators offered any serious proposals to help Montana homeowners?
You know, in this last 2021 legislative session, there was, an attempt at trying to reform our property tax laws and our state statutes. But what happened is it got killed. It got killed quickly. And who killed it? It wasn't our limited government Republicans. It really wasn't our far left progressive Democrats. It was those in the middle. It was our Chamber of Commerce, Republicans and Democrats, that are thriving off of the money coming from our property taxes. They're taking our money and they're using it to promote their businesses.
Very true. So a lot of people are very concerned right now. If we cap property taxes, what are we losing? What are we missing out on? What's going to get cut?
You know, this is the fundamental trick. Again, they're saying that we're cutting our property taxes and we're losing revenue. It's like what we've seen from the federal government. What we're doing is not causing a cut in property taxes, but what we're doing is we're decreasing the amount of increases in the future. So to them, that's a cut because they want more money. And Laura, let's just put it like it is. In 2015, I was a freshman legislator for House District 11. That is west and south of Kalispell, all the way down to the county line with Lake County, along the western shore of Flathead. And here's what happened. I was on the House Tax Committee. There was a bill carried by Senator Bruce Tubman, a Republican rancher from northern Kalispell. That bill did two things. It fundamentally favored the state. And what I mean by that is before that legislature occurred, we had our property taxes or our values were reappraised every 6 years. And then our bill only went up 1/6 of that raise over a 6-year period. And then it was reappraised again. And that system favored the property the property holder. It favored those that rent because the landlords didn't have to build in their property taxes every stinking year to a significant degree. Well, this bill changed it to reappraisal of every other year. And that was a fundamental change. And that fundamental change, when we looked at it in 2019, which was the last session I was the state senator for District 6, which is almost 3/4 of the shoreline of Flathead Lake, the state said that they were able to raise $70 million more with the new system compared to the old system over a 4-year period. That's our money that was siphoned from our pocketbooks into the state coffers. And make note, this did not profit our counties. Our counties are held struggling on the amount of money that they can get. This profited our state government and our state bureaucracies.
Correct. And a lot of people are very concerned about agriculture, how this is going to decimate agriculture.
Well, and again, back in that 2015 bill by Senator Tudvit, it also froze the relationship between commercial and private property, agriculture property, and timber property. Because in 2015, what was going to happen, or in 16, when the new reappraisal was to occur, we were expecting for private property and commercial property to drop 13 to 15%. We were expecting timber property to drop 75%. And we were expecting that agriculture property, because of production and their value, was going to go up 30%. So Senator Tudvit actually froze the system and gamed it for agricultural land at the expense of private property owners and business property owners and timber. What's happening in timber right now? They're selling their properties as recreational properties because they cannot pay their property taxes based on how timber production is done in Montana. It just doesn't cover.
Wow, that's quite stunning. The other concern is that we're going to decimate businesses.
Well, the truth is that in 2015, that bill by Senator Tudvit actually gamed the system against commercial property, private property, and timber property to favor agricultural property. It's just the fact. And what we're doing here with this constitutional amendment has nothing to do with agriculture, timber, or commercial property. This has everything to do about the private property owner. That's what it's about. We don't tie the hands of the legislature with this constitutional amendment. We provide them a tool to transform and fix this broken property tax system. And it's up to the legislature to decide what they do for commercial property, for our businesses and agriculture. But let's be clear. Our state government was not designed to promote or to give safety to our businesses. The fundamental purpose of our state government is to secure the fundamental rights of us, the people. And look, we're just tired of having to pay the bill for our businesses, for our agriculture, and for timber. Mm-hmm. We, the people, it's time that we fix it because our state legislators have been unable to do it on their own. And in our state constitution, the highest form of democracy is the citizens' initiative to either create a law or to amend our constitution.
And there is also some concern that it has to be a constitutional amendment. They're saying it makes it too hard to fix and too hard to change if it's not right.
Absolutely wrong. Why we have to do this is because we have Chamber of Commerce Republicans and Democrats who will do anything for a transaction. And all we need to do is look back about 10 or 15 years ago. Our state had a citizens initiative to create a new law that basically favored private Montana, in-state Montana hunters over out-of-state hunters for when it came to elk tags and deer tags around the state. That was taken to the people, and the people won, and that was put into law. Well, now we go a decade later. What happened in the last legislature? Well, we saw a special interest group, along with these Chamber of Commerce Republicans and Democrats, try to bring a law to change the will of the people, and it failed. The last week of our legislative session in 2021, what we saw was Chamber of Commerce, Democrats and Republicans coming together, taking that bill that was killed through the regular process and stuffing it into another bill. So then it was basically the legislators were taken hostage for other issues that were important for our appropriations process, and they ended up passing this bill that was killed. And that bill then took away what the citizens did through the Citizens Initiative 10 to 15 years ago. So yes, for that reason, our transactional legislators have taught us that it can't be done as a citizens initiative for a law. If we want this to be longstanding, we need to put it directly into the Montana Constitution.
Why is so much out-of-state money being poured into Montana's real estate market these last few years?
Oh my goodness, are we not the best last place in Montana?
Yes.
I've traveled around the country and around the world, and I can't wait to get back to my home state, Montana. But we are also the last best place for freedom. And we saw this during the coronavirus pandemic, where people were being locked down and treated, and not as citizens, but as subjects of the realm. A number of freedom-loving people said, enough with this. We're moving to where there's freedom. And they came here to Montana. So, yes, our real estate values have exploded because of the supply and demand. And unfortunately, what that means is that there are many good Montanans, my children, trying to get a starter home here in Northwest Montana. It's impossible, right? But what's even more impossible is for us to pay our property taxes, especially our retired Montana residents.
Amen. Yes.
I mean, let's talk our entry level workers who are trying to pay their rent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, rent is atrocious here in Kalispell and in Whitefish in the Northwest Montana. And a big chunk of that is the rise in our property taxes.
Absolutely. The property taxes that they have collected over the last period of time, do you think they've been using them wisely?
Once again, I served underneath a Democrat governor. At that time, I was on appropriations as well as on health policy committees, and I didn't think that they were spending their money appropriately. What I watched was our attempts to have oversight on the different state agencies. They just blew us off, and they just did whatever they wanted. I have to admit that during this last legislative session with the Republican governor, I have not been able to drill down into the numbers, but I am suspicious that things haven't really changed.
Interesting. What are your feelings about the NGOs that are exerting so much influence over this particular bill, constitutional amendment? What are your feelings about those groups, wielding so much power, trying to stop this?
What we're watching when we say NGOs, non-governmental organizations, these are the different special interest groups in Montana. Let's just, whether it's the realtors, it's the Chamber of Commerce, or it's the Farm Bureau, the Stock Growers Association, they need to understand one thing. Government's not about them. Government is about us, the people. Our state government is all about fundamentally one purpose: to secure our rights. And one of those rights is to own property, period. And in this situation, again, all across Montana, I don't care if you're an 80-year-old farmer and rancher from up in Scobie, Montana. I don't care if you are a small business owner in Red Lodge or in Darby or in Stevensville. What we are having is that when people go to pay their taxes, they're saying it's going up 10, 20, 30% every year. And we cannot plan our business. We cannot plan the budget for our families. And it's killing us. So let's go back and say again, very clearly, this is not about special interest groups. The government was not created for their interests. They're created for our interests, the people. Secure our rights, of which is property, to
Absolutely.
Own it. And therefore, they may have a loud, squeaky voice, but it's not about them. It's about us.
Absolutely. And what if you were to look forward into the future? I know there's been a lot of conversation about sales tax here in the state of Montana. What would you say to people who are concerned that passing CI-121 means that we'll end up with a property or a sales tax because all that money is going to be lost?
Again, there's not a lot of money to be lost. What we're doing is the goal is to decrease the increases in our property tax, and therefore the money lost is really our money in our pocket. This constitutional initiative has nothing to do with sales tax. We do not want to tie the hands of our state legislators who have to make that decision every legislative session on how we have a balanced budget. So, and oh, by the way, in our or in our state constitution, it already says that if we have a sales tax sometime in the future, it cannot go above 4%.
Oh, that's
Right?
beautiful.
So that's already in our state constitution. Oh, what is bed tax and the rental tax that we put on rental cars? I'll tell you, it's a sales tax. And the truth is it's already unconstitutional, anything over 4%. And here's the thing, those special interests, even our state government, know that they're breaking the highest law in our state, which is our state constitution,
Wow.
and they're looking the other way. They're criminals.
My goodness. So when we do cut the taxes, there's a lot. It's hysterical. Not funny, but the hysteria around it is that we're going to defund our police. We're going to have to send our kids to private schools because this bill looks a lot like California's Prop 13. And Prop 13's been around for 4 years, and look what it's done to California.
Well, the truth is when we look at property taxes, our counties who hire our police, our firefighters, our first responders, they're already strangled by the relationship and the deals made between the counties and the state bureaucracies and state and county governments decades ago. This is not, these huge increases are not going into the pockets or into the bank accounts of our counties. It's going into the bank accounts of our state bureaucracy. That's the fundamental chunk of that money going. So look, we can do a lot with our property tax and fundamentally transform it to actually encourage and make our counties healthy. But we're not going to get there if we don't try to fix property tax. Now, on that other issue of schools, look, 65 to 70% of our property taxes are going to pay for K through 12 education.
Okay.
Absolutely. And as a governor candidate in the last election cycle, I said we weren't trying to fundamentally transform property taxes by just decreasing it. What I wanted to do was to push a movement to be like Wyoming. Wyoming pays for not only K through 12 education and their university education through the royalties that they make off of their natural resources.
Oh, interesting.
They pay for everything, including building these school buildings. And if you go down there, they're paying our teachers 20 to 30% more than we are paying our teachers here. They have a healthy pension program for our teachers. They have new schools as they are needed to be built, and they're paying for the university. We can do the same thing.
No, that sounds very
Right.
intelligent.
And if we did that, then our property taxes could conceivably drop by 2/3. But we wouldn't do that. Actually, what I think that would happen, and what I was going to do as governor, was to make sure that those dropped, 50%. But then the counties could see an extra 20% bump in their revenue stream going to them from a decreased property tax. But they would have more money in their coffers for what? For funding our police, for
Yes.
funding our firefighters, for funding our first responders, for funding the 9/11 Center. Look, that's what our government's supposed to do, is to secure our rights and to provide public safety,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
So this can all could be better for our counties, for our firefighters, our police, our first responders, for our schools, if we can just get to the table and start talking about how do we fix property taxes in our state so they don't kill us, the people.
Absolutely. I'm a licensed agent, and I actually have a senior real estate specialist. My whole niche market is the 55 and over. One of the biggest benefits of this bill that I see, because I've dealt with it historically, is having a predictable budget for the elderly. Is there any other demographics that you see besides the elderly being something that is benefited from this cap?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have those on fixed income on the high end, our seniors who have spent their blood, sweat, and tears, taking care of our communities, paying their property taxes, paying for schools that they haven't had kids in school for 20 to 30 years. They're paying the bill. But at the other side is down on the other end, and that's our first-time families coming in, our young people who are coming in out of high school, out of the military, out of college, and they're trying to work and have their first place, whether they own it or more practically, they're going to rent. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I can vouch for somebody who's told me they rent a duplex, 3-bedroom, 2.5 baths with a 1-car garage in Kalispell for $2,200 a month. That's atrocious. Mm-hmm. But when they break it down, almost $300 of that bill is for property taxes. That too is atrocious. So what we need, so if we can decrease property taxes, that hopefully will then go to their bottom line and rents will be different. They'll be less. Again, I hear it all over. A, they're running me out of my house, and number 2, we need affordable housing. Well, that starts at the county level and the state level for them cutting our property taxes and cutting the regulations and the restrictions on where we build. If it's our property, we should be able to build upon it as we see fit. Mm-hmm. And if that means build another small little house for rental, or to RVO, or to have our kids live in, we should be allowed to do so because it's our property.
Absolutely. What would you say? I did speak with one local legislator. I won't throw them under the bus or say their name, but they said, well, they agree that transformative change is required in the property tax code here in Montana. They don't think this is the right way, and they don't think that it does the right thing or isn't exactly enough. It was very unclear, but there is no real strong, finite opposition. It's all hyperbole and hysteria. So, what would you say to somebody who said this is needed, but not this?
Well, again, we've tried to go through the normal process. We have tried, we collectively as a people and as conservative Republicans, of bringing fundamental property tax reform through regular order in our state legislature. And it's gotten killed. It's been killed, and a lot of times it won't even be allowed out of the committee because these special third-party interests have come and laid all of their opposition against it because it's too hard, it's too difficult to fix. Look, we the people are tired of it. We've had it up to here. And so it's time for us to go to the highest form of democracy and let the people decide whether or not property taxes need to be fixed, and fix it now. And there's no better time right now.
Absolutely.
And the reason why is that our state government has almost $1 billion in their check accounts. And that money is sitting there, and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. They got so much money that now it's time for us to tell them, priority number 1, let's fix our property taxes.
Yes.
Tell people, look, we're not defining what a residence is. Mm-hmm. And I think, and going into this, I think it's pretty, I think a good way to point this out, say, look, this is not one of those classic 2,000-page bills that are brought by Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, it's so clean.
This is one single page, easily read, easily understood, and again, we look at it as a tool to help legislators make property tax reform their number 1 priority.
Yeah, and I would really encourage anybody to read the actual bill. If people are being told it destroys agriculture, it's in the amendment. It destroys business, it's in the amendment. It hurts the elderly, it's in the amendment. It hurts.
It's not one of those classic 2,000-page bills that are brought by Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, it's so clean.
This is one single page, easily read, easily understood, and again, we look at it as a tool to help legislators make property tax reform their number one priority.
Yeah, and I would really encourage anybody to read the actual bill. If people are being told it destroys agriculture, it's in the amendment. It destroys business, it's in the amendment. It hurts the elderly, it's in the amendment. It's in the amendment. When you read the amendment, none of that's in there.
No, absolutely not. This, once again, it enables our state legislators to make this the number one priority going into the next legislative session. And that's what it is. Then they get to use their constitutional power to decide how it is enabled. It's simple as that. They will decide whether or not this affects commercial property or agricultural property or the realtors, or if it's going to affect our disabled or our schools. And the truth is this bill does none of that. It is simply a tool for Democrat and Republican legislators who are saying that our property tax system is broken, it needs to be fixed, and it needs to be our number one priority next legislative session.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time today. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Well, let's do this again. You get more questions?
Yeah.
Let's go over them.
Absolutely. I would
All right.
love that. I mean, we're relatively close. We're not that far away.
Absolutely.